The Chiefs fall to the Chargers 27-21, the first game of the season for both of these teams, a loss for the Kansas City Chiefs. And just getting into it right away, this is an instant reaction just right after the game. And I think there's a lot of things that we can look at in terms of what the Chiefs did tonight, but also looking at the division foe in the Chargers. And yes, this loss hurts for the Kansas City Chiefs, but I think it just shows something that there's a different type of parity in the NFL, and we can talk about this for hours. And there are so many things in the NFL that I'm excited to talk about, but we're gonna wait until this weekend ends to really dive into all of them because I want to see how things play out. And this is one of those things. Before we get into the game, just quick congratulations to the Eagles on their opening season win, and you know it's one of those games where people are saying, CeeDee Lamb should have caught the ball, all the different things. Without going too deep into it, CeeDee Lamb should have caught the balls. But those weren't the easiest, and he had a fantastic night. So taking nothing away from him or Dak Prescott, incredible game for them. Eagles come out on top in a bitter rivalry, and it was an interesting but entertaining first game. And out of the gate, this evening's game, this Friday night game, didn't feel like a game that was going to be very entertaining. It felt like a dud. Honestly, it felt like one of those, 13-3, 6-3 games where it's just like that small scoring breakdown. But after the Chargers scored that opening touchdown, the Chiefs pretty much went punch for punch with them, and that ended up being the difference. The difference of 6 points was a huge, obvious deficit for the Chiefs, but ended up being a big deal. That first quarter touchdown, it just took a full quarter, maybe even more if we're being honest, for the Chiefs to get rolling. And looking at what they did, Patrick Mahomes turned a really difficult situation into something really positive, but the star of the night has to be Justin Herbert. 25 for 34, passing with 318 yards. He averaged 9.4 yards, and if you go back to it, it just feels like, and we'll get into the Chiefs defense in a second, but it just feels like it's one of those games where Justin Herbert was just on 3 touchdowns. His passer rating was 131.7. Those are numbers that you usually see flip to the other side with Patrick Mahomes, but he finished with an 89.5, and just kind of that overall statistic, when you're looking at the whole situation for the quarterbacks, how you evaluate all of their statistics, this is one of the best ways to do it. And it's clear Justin Herbert played better, did better, and ended up with the result that he wanted. Although he almost didn't. He almost performed, unbelievably well, and still fell short with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs offense knocking on the door quite a few times there in the fourth quarter and keeping everybody on the edge of their seats. But eventually the Chargers will fly home after their very long flight and celebrate a win. But let's talk about the positives first for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I want to go back to the first quarter. Yes, the offense was not able to get anything on the board, but the big thing here was something that Rich Eisen said. And I'm quoting him, paraphrasing him, and saying in a comment early on in one of the first drives for the Chiefs, he said that Patrick Mahomes had all the time in the world. And here's the thing that it means so much that he said that to Chiefs fans, and here's why. The Chiefs have lost 2 Super Bowls in the Mahomes era, both of which were heavily fueled by offensive lines that were either injured or really, really struggling in a lot of different places. And we'll get into the Chiefs' offensive line struggles, but for a few moments, especially early on in the game, there were some shining moments. There were some moments where you looked at that Chiefs offensive line and you said, okay, here we go. This is what it looked like after they revamped it the first time. Brett Veach has done a great job of bringing in not only Simmons, who looked spectacular at left tackle on many plays, not every play, but many plays, but he also obviously locked up two of the best offensive linemen in the NFL, and Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. He locked them up. But he also shifted some things around, and Andy Reid is obviously a part of that. But figuring that out, there's some issues. We'll get to that. But there is a route in which this offensive line is very, very good. The other things I would say positively for the Chiefs were two different highlight plays, I would say. And I'm going to start with the first that I think people are more impressed with. I think it's an incredible play, but I would wait on it and ranking it next to the other one. But let's start with the kick at the end of the first half. This is all set up by Amarian Hampton, the running back for Los Angeles, going out of bounds instead of taking a knee, essentially, or going down to the ground to let the clock run out, giving the Chiefs enough time to go down the field and score. And Patrick Mahomes did what, does what he did. He did what he does when he has those opportunities at the buzzer, and he essentially threw up a buzzer beater with a great connection to Thornton and moving down the field into field goal range. But then a slight mistake and a referee call that said there was, the receiver was pushed back because of contact instead of going out of bounds, forced the kicking squad for the Chiefs to run out. And I mean, shout out to special teams coach Dave Tobe, because those guys knew exactly what they were supposed to do. They ran out. It looked like it was a rehearsal. It looks like the performance after a bunch of rehearsals, really. And they were able to line up, get the kickoff right on time. And here's the thing. This isn't just some, tiny little kick. Harrison Butker, they're scouting it as a 59-yarder. And it looked like he just walked up and he did a warm-up kick on it. Originally I said 57, but the box score is saying 59, and what a performance right there. He was 3 for 3 from field goal. But he missed the extra point early on, and that took so much air out of the Chiefs' offense. But you have to give him credit where credit's due. And that field goal, a spectacular, 55-plus field goal, is something that I feel like most kickers would tell you they would prefer not time to think about it, because that's the whole point of icing the kicker. He had no time to think about it. Everything he had in terms of mindset had to be thrown out the door, because he had to run out there, line up, do no warm-up, nothing, kick the ball through the uprights, and he did it. You would almost say with that extra point, did he just overthink it? I don't know. Harrison Butker's been a good enough kicker over the years that I'm not too afraid about this situation, because he only really struggles when he's injured. But he looked pretty solid from the field goal aspect of kicking. So, incredible play. Shout out to him. Ariaza, obviously the holder, but the whole special teams crew led by Tobe, and just how they had that rehearsed to the second, getting it off right on time, and gave the Chiefs the momentum to stay in this game. And then the other highlight play that made this a positive experience in terms of just watching it was Patrick Mahomes' throw late in that third quarter. And here's the thing. Patrick Mahomes has had a lot of throws that have just been awestruck, amazing, just edge of your seat type of throws. But this one felt a little bit different because there was so much on the line for here. So obviously there was a lot of other throws that, no lookers, the left-hand toss against the Broncos, incredible play against the 49ers early in his career, so many different insane plays. But this one was a little bit different because of the stakes, and you're in a difficult situation trying to convert a down that, if you miss out on, that might be the game. So it was a lot on the line, and he was able to convert a throw that I don't think anybody else in the league could make, even if they tried. And I say that hesitantly because there's so many talented quarterbacks in the league, but Patrick Mahomes has the ability to contort his body in ways that are just not really scientific. I don't think if a scientist sat down and tried to figure out how Patrick Mahomes' body works and how he's still able to find an arm slot to get the ball out, I don't think they would be able to figure it out because it's just not really normal. And the fact that he was completely horizontal with the ground and still had the momentum without any leg movement to get the arm. I know it wasn't a firing throw. It wasn't a bullet. but he got the ball out, and the ability to throw the ball while falling to the ground is pretty difficult. And I would say, let's go back and watch all of the throws together back to back to back, but this is a candidate, I would say, for his best throw ever. And I say that hesitantly once again, but at the same time, it's the stakes behind it, the situation, you're trying to revenge a Super Bowl, all of these different things, trying to go back and prove that, you're still a dynasty, and because people are giving up on the Chiefs, and as they usually do at this point in the season. But that throw was a pretty special one, reminding us that, yes, Patrick Mahomes is getting older, but he's still in his prime. He's still playing really well. But something about his game changed this evening, and I maybe I just missed it in previous years, but it felt like he walked out today and he was fired up in a way that I've never seen Patrick Mahomes fired up before. And what I'm talking about specifically is when he would run the ball, he would run like Isaiah Pacheco. An angry run, getting his legs in the ground as hard as he could, pushing off, and then finishing runs. But here's the other thing that makes it weird is he would take hits, and you never want your quarterback taking hits. There's a famous quote of the Mannings telling Arch Manning, get out of bounds or get down. Don't take a hit because you are way too valuable. Patrick Mahomes not only was taking some hits, giving up some of his potential of safety for those extra yards, but he also laid an insane hit later in the game that just got me out of my seat because it was just so incredible to watch. It's a fascinating thing to me to see a guy that is worth so much, literally worth hundreds of millions of dollars to the Chiefs, laying down hits and taking hits from NFL linebackers and defensive backs that want to hurt you if you stay in bounds. That is literally their job, to hurt you legally and hit you hard. And he laid down a boom on one of them, and he allowed hits to take him, but he bounced right back up like Pacheco and went back to the huddle. So that's the positives. I'm excited for the Chiefs season. I think, it's a little bit too optimistic to draw parallels to the Lions Chiefs first game 2 years ago, because the Chiefs went on to win because they had a wake up call in that first game. I think it's too early to say that, but I will say that I was not convinced before today that the Chiefs should be the favorite, and I still don't think the Chiefs should necessarily be the favorite to win the Super Bowl. But I didn't have the same confidence that I have had in previous years because of the overturn and the loss of guys like DeAndre Hopkins and Justin Reed. Those two guys were just worth so much, both on the offensive and defensive sides, respectively. And those two guys mean that much. We've seen Chiefs players leave before that have such a high role, and then they obviously went on to win Super Bowls. And the main examples being Tyreek Hill and Tyrann Mathieu, again, respectively, on their sides of the ball. And it hurts. You really miss those guys for quite a few games. But generally, the Chiefs figure out a way to win without them and plug those spots with young guys that become stars. But it was very evident as we move to the negative side. We're just gonna spearhead the most frustrating part of the night, and that was the defensive backs. The credit to the Chargers. I mean, Harbaugh. Credit to the Chargers and their game plan. Justin Herbert played incredible. They found so many holes in the defense. And it's the thing is Steve Spagnuolo, I don't even believe he called a bad game, because he called blitzes at the perfect time and he got his sacks that you're always looking for from a blitz heavy Steve Spagnuolo defense. But those defensive backs not only gave up a lot of catches to this wide receiver corps, but they gave up wide open catches, not even contested. The difference between a great defensive back, a good and a great. A good is one that contests the play. A great one, well, a good one is right there. A great one contests the play, but the best, pick it off if you're going to go on that tier. But my point is, looking at what they did, the defensive backs were atrocious. I just that's the breakdown that I saw. And yes, there's a few plays. Great play calling from the Chargers. Nothing the Chiefs defense could do about it, but there is a lot of conversations to be had in that defensive back room. And part of it is, how do we fill in that hole that was left by Justin Reed? I mean, it is a big gaping hole. I get that. But you have to fill it in. There's nothing you can do about it now. He's gone. There's nothing you can do about it. What in terms of bringing him back or whatever, but what can you guys do specifically to create a defensive back room that's just as effective with maybe more weapons, but not the same weapons as a team that had Justin Reed? So a lot of interesting things that need to happen there. And on the defensive side, that's my only concern right now. Linebackers look good stopping the run. Obviously, Nick Bolton is just a fabulous linebacker. It's exciting to see him work alongside Leo Chanel. And, I know Drew Tranquil had a little injury there at the end, but 2 sacks on the night. Great game from him, and finding those holes and hitting the quarterback hard, taking him down twice. It was exciting to see those linebackers do great. Defensive line, I'm a fan. I think Chris Jones has still got it, but George Karlaftis is kind of taking over the role as the star there on the outside, and he looked good. Amenahue. I mean, the Chiefs' defense has the guys. It's just whether or not they're going to figure it out, especially in the defensive back room. So that's the defense. I'm curious to see what that looks like in the future. You've got a brutal slate ahead of you. You head straight to play the Eagles. I know it's at home, but that's a hard game right out of the gate. Hopefully the Giants is easy, but you'll figure it out. Hopefully on Sunday Night Football when you have Andy Reid. But, Ravens, 3 of the first 4 games are pretty difficult games. And then you have the Lions sneaking there on October 12th. There is a difficult schedule ahead for the Chiefs. They're not worried about it. They're focused on the Eagles now. But there's a lot of positives. The only other thing that I want to say is on the offensive side, I really appreciate that the offense looks different in terms of the offensive line. That there were quite a few gut-wrenching moments on the offense in terms of penalties, mostly. Josh Simmons, you know what? Rookie debut, nerves are going. I understand it. Jawan Taylor, no excuses at all. Right tackle, the amount of holding and false start calls that guy has had in that Chiefs uniform should make Chiefs fans very angry, because it's a lack of discipline. It's not like he is, hated by the NFL or the zebras that are calling him on all these calls. It is Jawan Taylor really struggling in an essential part of being an NFL tackle. Once the play starts, he's pretty fine as long as he's not holding. He's pretty fine, but I just don't get it. I don't understand why the Chiefs are so locked in with him. I don't see him being in a Chiefs uniform for much longer if this continues, because it's not acceptable. It's not an NFL level of offensive line work. So I'm glad he's at the right tackle spot now. That's a lot less difficult. Josh Simmons, hey, I love it. I love that we're throwing him in the fire. He's at left tackle. He's protecting the best quarterback in the NFL. Make him do it. It's perfect. It's going to be interesting to see, though, if there's any adjustment with that offensive line. The one that really hurts is Xavier Worthy. Poor guy goes down right at the beginning of the season. I have no idea what that's going to look like injury-wise, but when you walk off the field with a towel on the head, it doesn't look great. The fact that he walked is great, but it's a shoulder injury, so it doesn't really mean that much. We'll see what happens. Shout out to Thornton for coming in. Number 80 came after getting cut by the Dallas Cowboys last year after a Buffalo Bills game. 2 receptions for 41 yards. One of those was huge for that 38-yard one, but it's not the same. Your receiver corpse right now looks like Hollywood Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster, which is okay. But Travis Kelce, besides that one touchdown, didn't look fantastic. And the rest was the rest. I mean, this receiving corpse is not anything to brag about. And I think Patrick Mahomes knows that. I mean, that's the greatness of Mahomes, is he's able to make the people around him better. But at some point, you've got to start looking at, like, all right, how do we fix this? Last year, when Rashee Rice went down, injuries started to pile up. They went and got DeAndre Hopkins, and preferably the Chiefs don't have to burn picks on just trying to save this receiver room. And I know that Rashee Rice could save this in a few weeks, but you cannot walk in the future looking at all of these games 6 weeks away, and you're looking at that seventh game is against the Raiders. And if you're walking in there 2-4, your season's completely flipped on its head. I mean, how easily could the Chiefs lose to the Eagles, Ravens, and Lions and take out wins against the Jags and Giants? And that's assuming no upsets from those two other teams. Could they go 5-0? Yes. But right now, in terms of receivers, they just don't look like they have many options, which doesn't allow Mahomes to be as creative because he doesn't trust his receivers as much. I think we have great guys. We're missing a piece there, and it's unfortunate because it could have been Xavier Worthy. I think 2 of those long balls that Thornton couldn't quite get, Xavier Worthy is catching all day long. And I think the Chiefs, that offense with Patrick Mahomes and Worthy, I'm sure they built that connection over this offseason, and they were ready to use it. Mahomes wasn't able to. I think if he doesn't get hurt, this game looks a lot more different. So it could be really interesting to see how that plays out. But I'm excited for the Chiefs season. Again, they're playing the Eagles next. That will be an interesting game. The Eagles looked great at moments against the Cowboys. At moments they didn't. And so that defense is pretty spectacular. Chargers defense is pretty good too. But it's just, the Eagles have so many stars on offense. And yes, this defense was able to shut down some guys. But you're talking about an old Keenan Allen, as he's complemented by Quentin Johnston and Ladd McConkey, who played great. Those 2 guys played great. Johnston had 2 touchdowns. The combined between them had 16 targets. Keenan Allen had 10 by himself. I mean, those guys are pretty good. But what's going to happen when you play A.J. Brown, who, yes, struggled in game 1, but he's A.J. Brown? What's going to happen when you play Devontae Smith? Oh, yeah, you've got Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley right next to each other. There's a lot to be worried about if you're the Chiefs defense after the performance that we saw tonight. 27 points is a lot, but in this era of the NFL, 7 points on average per quarter is not horrible. When you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, that should be enough. Clearly it wasn't tonight. We'll see what happens, because it's really unfortunate, because between our cornerbacks and our receiver situation, there's some skill positions, there's some defensive back areas that need to be solved. We're 1 game in. Let's not overreact. The Chiefs will be fine, but fine for the Chiefs looks very different than most teams, and that's where it concerns me. But we will break this down a little bit more. We'll watch the games on Sunday. It's going to be exciting. I'm excited for all of these games finally lining up and getting the season kicked off. But that's all I have tonight for the reaction immediately after the game. Thank you for listening. 27-21, the Chargers take down the Chiefs, the season opener. The game from Brazil. Super exciting to see all those colors across the stadium with all those jerseys. But I felt like it was a Chargers home game. I really did. And the reason why is because it feels like the Chiefs are the villains now, which makes sense. Even though they lost in the Super Bowl, they feel a little bit like the villains, and so why wouldn't you cheer against them? I understand that, but this could have some really big after effects, and I'd love to just take a whole episode to break that down to you. What my opinions are on this amazing international broadcast, but kudos to Rich Eisen and Kurt Warner for putting together a pretty great show on air. Obviously, fantastic crew around them, possibly doing it for the first time on, obviously first time on YouTube, but few of them probably the first time they've done an international game. So great job right there. And once again, we'll see what the Chiefs do. 27-21, the Chargers beat the Chiefs, and the season opener straight from Brazil. Thank you for listening.